Go Island is brought to you by German Auto Import Network.
We're in conversation with Nanaimo Mayor John Rattan today following Monday night's City Council meeting. Exploring art through an app, being a beer sommelier in Victoria, and a visit to Mission Hill Winery. That and more in the next 30 minutes. You are watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. We're going to clump together a little bit of a theme in the first part of our show, arts and culture in the city of Nanaimo. It was a discussion at last night's council meeting. We'll get into that with the mayor in just a few minutes. Another thing that was announced at City Hall last night was Nanaimo's first ever poet laureate. Her name is Ms. Naomi Watkins. She lives in the city of Nanaimo. She's 83 years old, and we look forward to hearing more from her. I hear she has quite a sense of humor in the months to come right here on Go Island. We're throwing things over now to Rayanne LaPlante. The city of Nanaimo has launched its Explore Art app that can digitally guide you through the public and private art to be found right here in the Harbor City. The city of Nanaimo wants feedback on the app from app users. They're thinking about creating one for trailheads in Nanaimo. To give your feedback, if you've used it, which it does look pretty cool, visit 250-756-5200 or go by email parks@nanaimo.ca. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. We're joining Nanaimo Mayor John Rattan following Monday night's City Council meeting. It was a long one, going the full 4 hours. Lots of discussion. One of the things that came up, and I can't help but notice the timing with some recent events in the arts community, is a cultural plan for a creative Nanaimo. What is the city doing right now as far as building a plan around culture?
Well, that's exactly what we're looking at. We recognize the report was put out by NEDC, the Nanaimo Economic Development Corporation, to the extent that arts and culture generates something like $94 million. And
in this city.
In the city, and potentially could create over 800 jobs. So this is something that we need to look at and focus on. And I think that arts and culture are part of our history. And I think we need to embrace it and support it wherever we can. And I know one of the challenges we have here in Nanaimo is less expensive stage and show places where people can take the theater, if you wish. And so we're looking at all the options out there to see what can be done.
And I couldn't help but notice the timing. Western Edge Theater has just canceled their season midway, leaving subscribers wanting and needing refunds now. Crimson Coast, for the first time in its 10-plus year history, is appealing to the public for a fundraising campaign because the provincial funding is ending for these groups who rely on it, and therefore the discussion about funding for the arts in general comes up at the very same time that the city is putting a plan together. What can the city do? I mean, if the value is seen, what can the city do?
Well, I mean, we have to look at it all now. We are a little bit surprised and perhaps to a certain extent disappointed that the province has withdrawn so much funding from the gaming revenues. And we feel this was something that supported a lot of the arts and cultural and not-for-profit groups. But we have a limited amount of funds ourselves that I don't know that we're in a position where we can pick up the shortfall and try to encourage or work with all of the different plans that are in progress. So we're going to look at it all now, and that's the purpose of what we're doing. What can we work to improve? Where are the efficiencies? Can we save some money in different programs? Can we get groups working closer together and get some synergy going where the costs will be reduced?
I can't help but wonder just now if it's such an economic driver, and if these groups disappear, that revenue to the city is also going to disappear. So it's going to have we brag about the positive impact, but the opposite is a negative impact.
And that's why it is important. And a $94 million economic generator is important, and we need to focus on how we can improve it and how we can best utilize that money.
Lots of other items came up for discussion at Monday night City Council. We're going to recap some of those for you later on this edition of Go Island. Time now for a short break. Still to come today on Go, an expert in beer, the grandson scam, warnings from the RCMP, and rapid fire with the Nanaimo Clippers. That and more still to come today on Go.
Did you know that grief is a 100% natural process? something that people shy away from and feel that we shouldn't get upset about. But actually, it's a great thing to get upset about. It's a healthy process. We should remember the people who've died. We should talk about them. It's old-fashioned to think that we shouldn't do that now.
And did you know that the craft beer market has exploded so much to the point in the past few years that there is now a need for a beer sommelier? They're called cicerones, and Victoria has 4. Who knew? 24 different groups and 80 different categories of beer. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. The Vancouver Island Raiders just finished their season, and statistics would indicate that they could be leaders in the province next year. If that happens, where would they play? How can you tell? We're talking about Caledonia Stadium here in Nanaimo, a big topic at Nanaimo City Council on Monday night. Really a sharing of information and an update as to where things are at.
Well, basically, that's what it is. We've got some shortcomings at Caledonia Park. The washrooms need to be upgraded, certainly, and the bleachers just don't work. They're basically unsafe and have to be replaced with new portable bleachers. That's the plan. It's not inexpensive, probably around the $250,000 mark to redo it. But here is a facility that the city owns. We do have a great tenant in the Raiders, and we want to work with them. So the city is going to look very closely through Parks and Rec at the options and see if we can get that work done as early as we can.
And that work, that $250,000, is sort of a Band-Aid approach until maybe some more permanent improvements could be made. That has been estimated at a cost of about $6 million. And some of the other options on the table include partnerships with the school district, the Rotary Bowl, and even Merle Logan Field. So it's all kind of up in the air, but something has to be done or we're going to lose the championship game next year.
That's a valid point. But, I wanted to point out that with the changing the bleachers to portables, they can be moved readily and moved to other sites as well. So except for the washrooms, which will be quite permanent, I think the rest of it will be portable. So we will be able to use them. It's an investment, but there'll be future uses other than just Caledonia.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot just a bit. Is the city committed to doing what needs to be done to ensure that the championships can be held here if that's an option, or that's still to be determined?
Well, you can be assured that the city will look at it very closely indeed. We're very proud of the Raiders. They've got an incredible record, and we're convinced that when they come back for the playoffs in the future, they'll win again. And we want to make sure that they have the right facilities, and we're going to work with them to see that happens.
We'll try to decide if that's a yes or no answer. Thank you, John. We're going to throw things over to Constable Gary O'Brien. We're going to have another look at a recent Crime Stoppers edition. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4, recapping Monday night's City Council meeting. One of the highlights was third reading passed for a trapping bylaw. No leg hold traps will be allowed in the city of Nanaimo. That is still waiting, however, for provincial approval. And other communities, Gibsons and Surrey's, both have this bylaw on the books. And I know that the folks at Lindley Valley West were pretty excited to see that pass third reading on Monday night in Nanaimo. We're going to throw things over now to a road trip. We're visiting a winery that you've probably heard of, Mission Hill. A lot of discussion around the mitigation plans for colliery dams came up at Monday night City Council, a hot topic in Nanaimo certainly for the past several months. 5 options were put on the table on how to handle what the decision might be to repair, replace, or improve these dams.
Well, basically, all we were trying to do was let the people know, the taxpayers in Nanaimo who will ultimately be paying this bill, or these bills, plural, how it will be funded. And I think the significant thing is that short-term borrowing can only cover a period up to 5 years or 60 months. And so if you take a multi-million-dollar rebuild or repair on a dam, and try to put it into a 5-year window, you're going to end up with a very, very large tax increase. Conversely, if you decide to stretch it out so the payments are a lot more palatable for the public, We can do that, but the problem is that triggers a referendum. Anything over $8 to $10 million will just about automatically trigger a referendum. So we're trying to let the people know that in advance so there's no surprises, and then they can accept or not as they choose. We're going through a plan right now. We've got a group together looking at now trying to finalize the figure on what the hard costs will be for the various options. We're working with the Colorado Dam Preservation Group as well as SFN, the Nanaimo First Nations, and of course the city's engineers and interested parties to come up with a consensus on and agree what these actual different options will cost specifically. Then we'll tailor a plan, a financing plan to that, and let the public decide.
And that does have a permanent or a fixed time frame because of when this work can be done, whatever that work is going to be.
Fisheries Into is impacted too. That's really middle of July to middle of September type of thing. But we're hoping to have the plan finished very early in the new year, so that then we can go either to the public or certainly let the media know that this is the option that looks best for the city, and try to find if there's support for it.
I think another key point that I'm taking away here is that it takes a little bit of work as a member of this community and a general citizen to learn about these issues, and we're certainly just touching the surface here. The minutes and the agendas of all city council meetings can be found on the City of Nanaimo website, and if it's something that you're concerned about, find out now where things are at instead of complaining after the fact when it's too late, because we all love to be armchair critics. We're going to throw things over now to someone who is much more than an armchair athlete and critic, Dan Marshall, with another installment of Rapid Fire. The Clippers face Port Alberni at Frank Crane Arena on Friday night. Then they're in Cowichan next Wednesday. That's November the 27th. You can get full standings and a schedule, NanaiMoClippers.com. We recap Nanaimo City Council meetings every other week following a council meeting with Nanaimo Mayor John Rattan. For upcoming agendas and full details of the minutes from the meetings, you can visit Nanaimo.ca. Thanks for watching this edition of Go. We'll see you next time.
Go Island is brought to you by German Auto Import Network. Clothing supplied by Catwalk Fashions. Kate's Hair and Aesthetics provided by Maffeo Salon.